a lot of time with her. I would go and film her every 2 months. So I just want to thank my family who's here. Because my family was probably my wife and my children, and because they're probably wondering what I was doing all that time. I would drive into the city and I would have lunch with Marian, or I would have tea with her, and that's what I was doing. I was going there and I was filming her. We would spend hours together. I would either film her, and then we would have tea, and we would have cookies, or her and I would go out to lunch, and we spent a lot of wonderful time together, and I really loved her. And I hope that comes across in the film. Yeah, that's...
And just about the controversy of the film.
Right. So I guess there was some controversy. There was a little controversy with the film. I had sent the film to someone who'd watched it, and then he had written in a blog how much he didn't like the film, and how he thought it was exploitive, and how I was abusing her during her dementia. And I should just say the disclaimer with that is that, as you can tell, she turned to me and she said, I would ask her repeatedly, do you want me to keep filming? And she would say, yes, of course. I never want you to stop. And she was aware a lot of times, like when she's turning the newspaper and she's looking up, that's her looking at me and she's acknowledging me. And then every time I would come in, because it wasn't about me, the film's not about me, the film's about Marian. And that's one of the reasons why Marian and her relationship with her daughter, Catherine. And it's important to me that it's an objective point of view. You know, Catherine agreed to be interviewed. I didn't force her to be interviewed. And that was part of the controversy. People felt like I was on either side, either Marian's side and letting Catherine abuse her, or Catherine's side and letting her talk badly about Marian, and that's not the case. In either way, my job as a documentary filmmaker is to be objective and let the audience make their decision. So I do feel like, I think that all this controversy that happened had to do with someone's point of view. One person I let watch the movie, and then all these people that did talk about it didn't see the movie. And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that people would write all this stuff about not even seeing the movie at all is fascinating. But as an artist, I think you expect that, and I saw it as a compliment that someone was so. I don't see that as a bad thing that someone's so upset over my movie. I would be worried if someone walked away and went, "Yeah, it was okay." That would get me worried. But the controversy, I think, is but also a good thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing that someone.
Controversy aside, was it difficult, obviously you filmed her before the deterioration started.
Mm-hmm.
Was it difficult at moments? I'm sure there was a lot of emotionality involved at certain moments in continuing filming.
Yeah, I mean, there were people who would come. I interviewed a lot of people who would come visit, so it was set up through the family. And by the way, the family approved of all this. I have releases from everybody, including her brother, Catherine, the daughter, and they all were happily to be a part of it. So the sidebar on the controversy is that everyone was saying, "Oh, he must have just went rogue and shot this," and that's not possible.
No.
I mean, you can't go shoot Edward Albee or Terrence McNally, John Guare.
Without a 50-year history of that.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Kushner, and by the way, Tony Kushner said to me, he said, "Do me a favor, if you're gonna make this movie, make sure it's not," because someone did a documentary on Tony, and he hated it, because it was just a flowery piece of like wonderful, and Edward Albee said the same thing. He said, if you're gonna do this, really do it, like show the scars and all. And I said that to Marian, like a few years in. I'll just tell you a really quick story. So Marian's very, very, she's very dramatic, as you can tell. And I was sitting there, and there was like drilling upstairs. So I was a one-man show. I would show up with my equipment. I would show up with I was doing the sound. I was doing all of it. And I turned on the equipment. I turned everything on, and there was someone drilling upstairs. And so I was like, this is a waste of a day. I paid for parking. I paid for, it was just a waste of a day. And I just turned off the camera. And I turned to her and I said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you just be you? Can we just let go of all the facade and let's find out who the real Marian is?" And she was absolutely talking. Of course, absolutely, I would love to do that. And she meant it. She was wonderful. We were laughing. She goes, "That's a good idea." And so I turned the camera back on, expecting her to drop who she was, and she was still Marian.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's what the doc is. The doc is that she never drops it. It's always there. And so the first 5 minutes of this celebrates that. And then what happened over the few years after that was that she really, she started to deteriorate, and I said, do you still want me to film? And she said yes. And she said, I want to continue this. And the family said absolutely. And when I interviewed her daughter, the whole film took a whole different turn. Because I realized that this is a relationship, this is a story about end-of-life care. This is a story about a woman who taught people at Juilliard how to speak. She was a teacher at Juilliard for 22 or 23 years. And she taught Juilliard students how to speak, and then all those people that came to see her were Juilliard students who came back and spoke to her. And that's what the story is. And then, I made them the stars because the Edward Albees and Terrence McNally's don't need to be the stars. I think it's better that the students, the Juilliard students.
The on-site nurturers.
Yeah.
Scene where she's like finally speaking that word, or says seeing it like, it's so touching. And if you see a documentary about an actress and just every role they played and every play they wanted to play, it would be not anything real, as you said.
Right.
She was a real person, and I didn't find the decline that sad, actually. It was the whole picture. Like, I don't know how I'm going to exit it, but it's sort of, she still was, there was an essence of what she was.
Yeah. I mean, she talks about it. She said, I just want to make sure the ghosts don't mind.
Right now.
I mean, she talked about the end
Right.
and how she wanted it to be, how she wanted it to be a certain way. So, anyway.
Congratulations.
Does anyone have any questions?
Hi.
So, like, when you said it's a story about end-of-life care, do you think that Marian wasn't well taken care of at the end of her life? Is that your point?
No, not at all. I think it's about the group effort that she was taken care of and her, what happened to her during her end-of-life care. So I don't have an opinion on whether it was good care or bad care. I know that she was cared for wonderfully. I know there were therapists there.
But not by her daughter. Is that your point?
No, that's not the point. Yeah, no, I didn't. I would never say that the daughter didn't take care of her, because I know for a fact.
You put the stuff up at the end of the film about the fact that her daughter was denied guardianship. What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose of that?
Well, the purpose of that is that that's the truth.
So you don't think that her daughter gave her good care? Is that your point?
No,
Actually, can I make a suggestion? If we can talk about the film,
But that was on the film.
right,
It's on the film.
but it's a whole story. I don't know if
But
you.
that,
I'm not sure what your point is.
most of the film's about the end of.
No, it's also about her.
It's like half of the movie is Catherine, so it's not about Marian. It's about your attitude about the way Catherine
I totally disagree.
took care of her mother.
Well, that's your opinion, but
I totally
I don't agree that that's actually the case.
It's a portrait of a person. I think it's a portrait, portrait of a person who loved Edward Ralphie and teaching in Juilliard. And people do
There's no
decline.
pictures of her teaching at Juilliard.
There's a picture of her entire career and essence
There
of her.
was no pictures of her entire career. Come on.
Oh, you got this. Let's end this right now.
No, that's okay. No, it's okay. I mean, I get it. It's okay. It's okay. You guys. No, you guys.
We actually are.
Yeah, we have to end.
Okay, well, then that's what you saw me.
We gotta cut, yeah. We're ready for our next block, unless you have a last minute. I want to see one thing too.
Sure.
No, Rick did a film 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it was a wonderfully interesting film, and we loved him, and the cast was amazing, and we saw this documentary, and I know he's a sincere artist and a genuine person. May not be everything depicted the way you want it to be, but that's all I can say.
I also
We're
think
thrilled to just
you watch it and
make an opinion.
you make your own opinion.
Right.
Some people may think
I
it's a
also don't
negative
think this
view.
is a place to criticize. I think this is a place to admire work.
Okay, anyway, so thank you everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, well,